Okay, so Eric's Gaming is basically another. It's like one of the biggest Monster Hunter channels, along with Gaijin Hunter, Rurikon. In my opinion, I do enjoy Gaijin Hunter a lot. Gaijin Hunter was like my number one go-to Monster Hunter channel for any information on Monster Hunter and how to do certain things with Monster Hunter. His videos literally what made me use Brave style in Valor style in Generations Ultimate with the bow, and I completely fell in love with it. Completely fell in love with it. But we're gonna look at, because this what gets me 16 player lobbies, which I did talk about it with like Score and Reaver, to where they were excited that it is confirmed. But the one thing that gets me is that new 15th weapon possibility, and that's what I want to talk to you guys about or react with you guys. I'm not sure if someone made a timestamp of it. Let me just get rid of my watch later, honestly. But yeah, let's go ahead and let's just continue.
I'm not even joking. Just when you thought the TGS news had stopped.
By the way, that chicken, I am in love with that chicken monster. If any of you guys know Wild Hearts, there is a chicken monster in that game that could literally do a flying kick at you, and I just find it to be the most funnest thing ever. It's hilarious how it just do a jumping kick. But yeah, I like it. I like the chicken. We finally actually got a physical chicken, a rooster. I'm just saying. I'm just babbling on here.
Stopped or slowed down.
Reaver.
We got some of the best information yet about highly requested features and some returning stuff. In an exclusive interview with the Italian outlet Multiplayer, we got information on lobby sizes, more details on how decorations and skills work, and even talk about the possible.
Oh yeah, with the skills, that's another thing with the skills, because people were asking them during interviews, like with the whole swapping of the weapon and the whole skill thing based on the weapon that you're using, like is that going to affect is that going to affect the weapon usage in Monster Hunter Wilds? And so they made this thing to where there's certain skills that would be applied to the weapon that will automatically activate when you use those weapons. I think they stated more specifically attack based skills. So if there is a skill that you're wanting to use on a bow, but then again, like your armor set's complete, you try to accommodate your armor set for both weapons, and you switch to like a hunting horn or a greatsword or any other weapon, it would also activate for that as well. And I find that to be really interesting. But you know,
weapon in Monster Hunter. So buckle up and let us know what you think about all of this, and let's jump into it right.
What's really funny about this, the 15th weapon, I'm sorry, I'm gonna be pausing it and doing my own discussion and opinions about it as we react, so I deeply apologize if it annoys you. I do apologize, but I do want to say though, a lot of people don't know, because they just know that the Taunt Fuzz exists and the Magnet Spikes exist. And there are some people that know that the Acellax exists from Monster Hunter Explorer. But most people don't know that there is also a fourth weapon that we've never gotten in the West, that's in the universe of Monster Hunter, and that's the bladed whip or spike. It's a whip style weapon, and it's in the manga of Monster Hunter. It's literally in the manga, and with other monsters as well that was never introduced as well. There was like a cheetah monster or something like that. But yeah, there is a whip-based weapon in the manga that a lot of people don't really know about. A lot of people do not know. Honestly, a lot of people does not know. And I find that to be a bit shocking, because there's a lot of Monster Hunter people out there that know way more than me, and that they don't know that weapon exists, that concept exists. You know, I just find that to be interesting. But let's carry on.
Right away. Oh, but actually, let me just quickly say before that, this has been translated, so again, there might be some mistranslations here, but we're pretty confident this information is correct. The first thing that the interview stated was a question about performance, which is of course the hot topic of the community at the moment, with some of these questions actually coming from the multiplayer community, which is why they probably aren't as generic as other interviews and are a bit more in depth. The interviewer asked, "We would like to start with the most frequently asked questions from our community, starting with the issue of optimization. Do you want to reassure the public about the performance of Monster Hunter Wilds?" The answer was there isn't much to say about it. We're just entering the final stages of development, the last 6 months. And what we're working on now is the general optimization of the title. As such, we don't have any specific details to mention, but we want to reassure players that we're working very hard to optimize the experience as best as possible.
The thing about that, and yes, Ron, yeah, new weapon, hopefully, most likely would not. Most likely they're going to stick with the 14th weapon for a long time and then include it at a right time. I think Monster Hunter Wilds would be the right time to include a new weapon because Tri introduced the Switch Axe, and then 4 Ultimate introduced Insect Glaive and Charge Blade, and then from then on we didn't get any new weapons. So I think Wilds would be a good title to introduce a new weapon. I don't quite know. I honestly don't think it's best to include Tonfa's Magna Spikes or the Acelax. I think something completely new would be better for this case, because I don't see it fitting. The weapon itself, the Tonfas, the Acelax, the Magnetic Spice, those are, I would call them hybrid weapons. I think, most a surge. I basically, I would reckon that as well, honestly. But yeah, those weapons, I call them hybrid weapons because think of it like Dragon's Dogma. You have 3 basic class, 3 advanced class, and then 3 hybrid class. That the hybrid classes in Dragon's Dogma can only be used by you, the main character, by you. You can't make your pawns hybrid because it's specifically for the main character. That it's a combination of different classes put together, and it's very overpowered. I think that would be the case here for Wilds, even though there are some aspects of Dragon's Dogma and the classes were put in Wilds, specifically the bow, because the bow is basically the magic archer from Dragon's Dogma. That's all I'm saying. With that one skill, you shoot that you can literally lock on multiple targets on one monster, like target parts, and then shoot multiple arrows. That's basically the magic archer skill from Dragon's Dogma. I want them to have something like Gunlance but faster. You most likely were looking at the Acelax from Explorer. It's basically an axe that works like a gun, and you can launch yourself. You can launch yourself and then deal massive amount of damage. That would basically be the closest thing to a Gunlance, given that it's a blade and a gun. So that's like the closest thing to the Acelax. You know, if they do something new with that, who knows? Who knows?
Well, as mentioned in the previous video, they are still in the process of optimizing the performance of the game.
Optimization, that's another thing that still gets me, because the whole optimization thing, a lot of people do not like it because the whole specs of it, the whole recommended specs is like all high-end parts, hardware for a computer. And then in order to run 60 frames per second, you have to have your game in medium settings with frame generations on. And that's really not a good thing, because it means that at launch, your game is not really running at 60 frames automatically. For example, like frame generation works like this. You play a game on 30 frames per second, and then if you enable frame generation, it's going to use AI to sort of fill in the gaps to make it look like it's running on 60 frames. I think it's going to have some like the input delay. It can also cause other issues as well, but that's basically what it does from my understanding, with the research that I did, that's basically what it does. It takes whatever that's not showing, and it sort of fills it in. It sort of fills it in to make it look like it's running on 60 frames per second. It sort of pushes it, you know, and a lot of people, like, that's sort of a trend of what's going on with a lot of games. And it does show that it does kind of worries me a little bit, because it kind of gives me the feeling of this game may not be fully optimized completely at launch, to where we're gonna get what we get. It's gonna have probably gonna have a lot of crashes, a lot of performance issues, and then we'll suffer through it, and then we'll get updates. It's kind of like Dragon's Dogma 2, of how it was the most anticipated game, and then with how Capcom launched it was complete garbage. And what's interesting enough, Capcom, to be honest with you, Capcom does not care. Capcom does not care about Dragon's Dogma. There were information that came out that Capcom not only like cut the budget, but they rushed the production and they rushed the development and everything. And so they like what it is what we get because of it. And the creator of Dragon's Dogma actually left Capcom. You know, basically creators differences and things like that. And I'm not gonna lie, I'll be mad too if I'm very passionate about a game and I'm working for a company that I love, and then the company decides to just crap all over my idea and sort of like, okay, we'll give you the funds that you need, and then they basically take away the funds. Like, dude, I will be mad as well. To be honest, I would be mad as well, and I would want to leave to go to another company that would respect my vision of what I'm trying to do, you know. And it sucks because Itsuno was like Dragon's Dogma, because that's what happened with Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen, or Dragon's Dogma in general. It was released incomplete because he had so much ideas, and there was a lot of stuff that Capcom cut and sort of rushed things along. And you know, it is, I mean, it's sad, but it is what it is. But yeah, I digress. It was only 1 minute in the video. I'm so sorry, guys.
But one of the most interesting things the interview discusses is about crossplay and cross-save. As Monster Hunter is integrating crossplay into the game, which allows us to play with friends on different platforms, it won't be implementing cross-save, which is essentially a system that allows you to start playing.
What's interesting is that World can do World could have done crossplay.
Save into Wilds from the start, so you can join up with friends on other platforms and go hunting together. But the game won't support things like cross-save and cross-purchase. We've decided to integrate features into the game to disable crossplay at any time, even when searching for a single quest. So there'll be complete freedom in terms of matchmaking. The fact is that cross-save is not a simple feature to integrate into a video game of this kind. It's a really big challenge on the technical front, but I think that compared to past titles, since this time the launch will be simultaneous on PC and console, any kind of concerns will be alleviated a lot.
Oh, you like the pause? Thank you, Ron.
Will arrive immediately, so everyone will have the freedom to choose the platform they prefer, remaining free to play with other players who are also tied on their own platforms.
Speaking of that, World could have easily went crossplay. It was just a flip of a switch, honestly, because a lot of people is like, oh, you know, it's how should I say this? Basically, it was the consoles, because like they have the power. They literally have the power to be like, to flip a switch to have everything crossplay. But there's like an agreement that every company that has a platform of consoles, like Xbox, Steam, PC, you know, Epic Games, if Epic Games have that on there. No, they don't. So Steam, on PC, PlayStation, Xboxes sort of all have to come to like an agreement, from my understanding, and it could be a flip of a switch. It's not hard. It's really not hard. It's like, it's all based on like, if they want to do it or not, or because Monster Hunter World was first released on PlayStation and then it was later released on Xbox, I think. I'm not sure. They correct me if I'm wrong. They could have easily done a crossplay through the consoles of Xbox and PlayStation players, but they didn't want to do that. They want to like leave the exclusivity with its own people. Like, there's so many Monster Hunter World players right now that if they would have just open up, like literally flip the switch to have PC, Xbox, and PlayStation play together in a 16 player lobby, there will be so much people online. There'll be like if you were to count the player base that's right now currently on Steam with the player base that's currently on the consoles, the numbers will skyrocket if they would just flip that switch. But yeah, that's what they want to do.
It is very cool that they've added this feature in. It was always annoying wanting to play with a friend only to find out they weren't on your platform.
Right.
It's also great that they've included the ability to turn that option off though, because sometimes with crossplay enabled in other games, it can cause issues with how the game runs. We remember playing a few games on a launch where having crossplay on would actually cause the game to crash, so having that option to disable it is a good backup. Now, you may know in Monster Hunter Wilds we have the ability to quickly swap our weapon while using our Sacred.
Oh, dude, Chotacabra is going to be one of the monsters where I'm going to get everything for.
Remember, in another interview with the Chinese magazine Weibo, there will be offensive skills tied to our weapons that allows our build to be a bit more flexible when switching weapons. Now, from this interview, we have some more definitive information about it, stating that 100% of offensive skills will be exclusive to weapons, and that they have reworked the decoration system for more freedom. They also spoke about why we'll have 2 weapons this time, so let's go through that first. The question was, is the choice to allow you to equip 2 weapons and change them at any time part of this philosophy? Is this a concept designed specifically for this chapter, and if so, why?
Get out of here, Ad. Get out of here.
Absolutely. This decision was a natural consequence of the type of design we adopted for Wilds, mainly because it is no longer necessary to return to base camp when a mission has ended. Because after the conclusion, you can easily stay in the field, explore further, and search for new targets, which means unlike past titles, where returning to base camp gave you the opportunity to change equipment, now we absolutely did not want players to feel forced to go back to choose a different weapon for the next monster. Having 2 weapons equipped allows the hunter to be prepared for anything, any kind of possibility, whether it's the next monster to hunt seamlessly, or the conditions on the map have changed. Maybe the world has gone from...
I think that's also pretty cool though. I think that's really cool that they're able to do that. That we're able to do that now.
Completely different monsters will appear. So it's really handy to have another weapon that offers different strategic options for unexpected events that might occur. So yes, it was a natural building into this episode. An interesting thing to take away from this is that there will be specific elemental damage conditions connected to the weather. This could be referring to the fact that apexes only appear during extreme weather events, which may have a particular elemental weakness, or it could be hinting that there may be benefits or drawbacks to using weapons in those extreme conditions. We really can't wait to find out.
That's interesting.
A bigger thing that will impact our playstyles will be our builds and the decorations included in them, so let's dive into that. The question was,
plays, we can buff ourselves with the hunting horn and then switch to another weapon. The buff continues.
Decorations and the perks I've chosen to use. The answer was the first very important thing is that skills related to attack, those are what we define as offensive, have been moved from pieces of armor to the weapon itself. This means that having them placed directly on your weapon, even when you change weapon, you'll find yourself with the new one
does that
already
mean,
the skills related to attack
depending,
ready.
like, does that mean, for example, if I have, Constitution or something like that, it could be on the bow, or if I get over another bow, is it going to have something different? Like,
that is the jewels, to allow a much more flexible customization system regarding different loadouts. Now, with the information we've already learned this week about the decorations, let's take a look at the weapon-specific icons. The skills and mix set system is looking a lot clearer now, as it looks like you will build towards your weapon-focused skills on the weapon itself, while having your more defensive skills on your armor. It's going to be interesting to see where the line is drawn for skills being offensive.
My cat
not,
is just
certain ones like quick shoot
scratching away.
Exactly offensive, but for something like the longsword, it does dramatically increase your DPS over time by having it, as you can do things like countering more easily. Another thing we're super happy to hear from this interview was the quest counter and board. In previous interviews from Summer Games Fest, it made it sound like the quest board was a relic of the past, but now we have learnt that the map system is actually additive to the quest board. They asked, a question that comes up is how hunting works. Now that everything happens seamlessly, for example, how will we be able to time hunts like speedrunners do now? Will there be a different way?
Yeah, I do too. Not gonna lie, I really do like the new UI.
Quests where you can go out into the open maps, attack the monster, and automatically start the quest is not the main way or only way to start a hunt. This is a system that we designed to allow you to stay in the world and eliminate any kind of loading, a more flexible approach to be able to play continuously without worrying too much about preparation.
I'm not gonna lie, it looks a lot like Dragon's Dogma 2.
That is a notice board in each settlement where you can choose a mission, and if you're in a multiplayer session, make sure everyone is ready before finally starting it. The traditional ready start the hunt system. So we've integrated the new system and the old one in parallel, through which it will obviously also be clear at the precise moment of the start and end of a hunt, as well as all of the statistics that could be useful. Now we are curious to see which system players will end up enjoying more, the seamless questing or the quest board. It's great to have both options available, so you don't have to wait for your friend who's taking 10 years in the menu before readying up. Also, something else to point out is that they have stats back on menus, and hopefully they have some fun and useful ones out there. Another huge reveal from this interview was the confirmation that we'll actually be getting 16-player lobbies.
I think that's nice, having 16-player lobbies, to be honest. I think that is really nice.
Where players can group in parties of 4 for hunting sessions. The party link system allows you to communicate and stay connected
that
together
right there where you
completing
shoot multiple,
your
that's
own
like a magic
objectives.
archer sort of thing.
We'll have 16-player lobbies, so they will still have the social aspect of the game, which is just great. Hanging out in lobbies, jumping on random quests was always a great thing to do in World, and here's what they had to say about the lobbies. The question was, this is perhaps a silly question, but now that World and cities have changed so much, what will happen to the nice relaxing moments that we're used to spending with friends in the main cities? Have they been maintained in some way? The answer is, in Monster Hunter Wilds, you can connect to a 16-player online lobby, and all of those players will appear in the base camp at the same time.
Whoa, that's okay.
Base camp is directly integrated into the open world. So as always, you'll be able to visit, meet up, chat with friends, and take part in the classic social dynamics. So don't worry, those social elements are absolutely going to be a part of Wilds 2. It is awesome that this is back, and the system gives us hope
that look at that
16-player siege-style hunts in the future, as they started that with other Monster Hunter games with larger group hunts, like we had Kolv Taroth in World, which was kind of like a pseudo multi-group hunt. So we can
see the whole concept of Kolv Taroth was missed, man. Was completely missed, because that would be cool to have multiple hunters.
It's been over 10 years since we've had any new additions to the roster of weapons in Monster Hunter, with a crazy thing being that some weapons even got forgotten, like the Tonfa, the Magnet Spikes, and the Excel Axe. You see, these appeared in other Monster Hunter games, but have not been as...
Remember, when see how I said, like, everyone knows those 3 weapons, but there's that 4th weapon that's in the manga, that's, like, I'm not sure if it's canon or anything. I'm not even sure if Explorer is count as canon, but like, that's another thing. The fact that that is also a weapon. That is also a weapon.
A staple. The interviewer asked about the possibility of a 15th weapon, and here's what the team had to say. The question was, I know this question has nothing to do with what we've been talking about so far, but I'm really curious. Have you ever thought about adding a new weapon to Monster Hunter recently? And if you have, what was that discussion like? Apparently everyone laughed, and the answer was, the truth is, it's something we talk about all the time. Because we've never really abandoned the idea of adding new weapon archetypes, we just haven't done it recently in the last few episodes. The truth is we have a lot of ideas that we've been piling up over the years about what weapons we could add. We're thinking about what a new weapon could add to the gameplay without overlapping too much to other existing weapons, without offering a similar experience. So it's an idea that has never been discarded, it's just that every time we study a new chapter, we first think about the ideas that are needed to lay the foundations of a new concept.
Hold on, wait a minute. Oh my god, stupid ads. Okay, so basically they've always thought about coming out with new weapons, but what goes into the discussion is what is going to bring to the game, what's going to bring to the experience. Is it going to overlap everything that they have built so far? Okay, now I see why, that they didn't want to add any new ones. But I think for games like Rise and Sunbreak, I do think that a new weapon should have been introduced, because Rise is more based on straight up gameplay, with like the wire bugs, the skills and everything. I think adding a new weapon to Rise would have been the best title, rather than me saying, oh yeah, World would most likely be the best title to sort of have a new weapon. But now that I'm thinking about it, Rise should have implemented a new weapon with Rise. Definitely with how the game was like, and how the gameplay with each and every weapon, it felt more like a hack and slash beat 'em up anime style weapon. But yeah, see, like the whip would have been really cool, would have been sick, especially with wire bugs, with how that's going to be like. I feel like that would be really cool. That would definitely add a whole new experience to it. But at the end of the day, it's what they want to do. But I digress.
But we introduced the 14th weapon. Consequently, it never happened that it was one of our main focuses of the subsequent games. In this case, for Wilds, our philosophy was to take the 14 existing weapons and develop them a lot compared to the past through new moves and features. Sujimoto said another thing we often discuss about the 15th weapon is that over the years we've developed the existing 14 weapons so much that each one has a very deep combat system and is capable of doing very exciting things. Now, achieving a high level of mastery with even just one of them has become such a complex task that it's extremely difficult to invent a new category that can immediately prove to be on par with the legacy variants. If you think about the last two editions, the Insect Glaive and Charge Blade, they too have had 10 years of evolution, so it's even more difficult to think of a sufficiently deep design. We also need to consider the issues of resources. It's not that we don't want to add a 15th weapon, on the contrary, but even if we had those resources available, we would ask ourselves if it's really worth investing them in that specific direction, instead of, for example, thinking about the existing toolsets and using them to create something new and different in the game, or to change perspective on balance. In the end, it's all a question of priorities for the next video game. Simply, in recent times, it hasn't happened yet that the new weapon was considered a priority. Well, it is awesome to hear that this is something they're really thinking about and properly considering, and come on Ryozo, give us that goodness. We understand the reluctance to do so from a development standpoint.
But that's the thing though, like everybody... That's the thing, everybody is going to want a whole new weapon. Everybody is going to want a new weapon. Well, not everyone. I would say the majority of the community would want a new weapon. I was part of that wagon to where I wanted a new weapon as well. Like, I wanted a new weapon. Because even though the 14th weapon has been developed over the years, I mean, I'm pretty sure they could do it. They could do it again. If they done it so many times before, because they have the other weapons that they added throughout like each Monster Hunter game, because Monster Hunter 1 didn't really have a lot of weapons. They were actually adding more weapons along the way. Like after Freedom Unite, I think it was Try, and then Try added Tri added Switch Axe. Switch Axe was like the biggest thing. Everybody was like, "Oh, this is so cool! You can go to Axe mode and Sword mode, and the Sword mode has this huge discharge that deals tons and tons of damage." And then now you have for Ultimate that introduced Charge Blade and Insect Glaive. Like, oh my god, you can be in the air. Basically, I think the reason why we didn't get Tonfas is because Insect Glaive is basically what Tonfas are if Tonfas wasn't Tonfas, if that makes sense. Because everybody wanted Tonfas to be in the new game because they wanted to be up in the air dealing damage. Insect Glaive does that, but added another element, added a whole new aspect to it with the Kinsect. That's all I'm saying. And then Charge Blade is basically a more refined form of Switch Axe. It's a more complex form of the Switch Axe. You have Sword and Shield mode, which is basically, I would say, the sword mode for Switch Axe. And then once you put weapons together, you go to Axe mode. Boom, Axe mode. But that's just me. People could disagree. People can't agree, or we could have a good conversation about it, but that's just my take on it.
Undertaking of resources. At a top level, it does sound easy, just get a team to design and implement a weapon, but you actually need to think about the fact that this adds a new weapon tree to most of the monsters, and then new decorations or skills on top, which in the end multiplies the work from 14 times per monster to 15 times. However, come on guys, it would have been huge if they added in a new weapon. It isn't like Capcom doesn't have the moolah, the money for it to spend, as this is one of their biggest franchises. If there was something that Wild Hearts got right, it was the fact that it had a bunch of weapons that feel completely different to what we have in Monster Hunter.
See, that's the thing. With Wild Hearts would have been a very good competitor if EA kept on supporting it. EA literally just backed up. They messed up the development. They messed up everything with Koei Tecmo, Tecmo. I don't know, but it's one of my favorite companies because they made Tokiden, I think, or they made Neo. They messed everything up with that. You know what I mean? Wild Hearts was such a good underrated game that if they would have gave it more support and optimizing it, it would have been a whole lot better, than what it is. Because now the game is sort of dying in a way to where there's not a lot of people playing it, but there should be more people playing it.
Using the Claw Blade and the Bladed Wagasa, so there is a lot of potential for new weapons.
Oh, there goes the chicken monster that I was talking about.
Chain blade that we've been wanting for ages.
What did I say? Dude, the whip, man, the whip could be possible. But yeah, that's fair, but I like the diversity between Switch Axe and Charge Blade and Sunbreak. Switch Axe is around the counterplay style with setups, and Charge Blade is most focused on instant. Yeah, it is focused on instant counters. Yeah, having to see Reaver play, Charge Blade. Yeah, definitely. I can agree with you on that. I can definitely agree with you on that.
Hopefully they can add a new weapon in as an expansion and make that a priority. Actually, I hope they add more than one, because after this long of a wait, that would be 10 out of 10. What weapon type or ideas would you have though if they were to add one in? Tell us down below, and make sure you're subscribed for more videos on Monster Hunter and your favorite games coming very, very soon.
That's the thing though. That's the thing, because that would be really cool if they did add a new weapon, but it should be a completely new weapon that was never introduced to the universe at all. Adding a weapon to the West that's never been introduced to the West. That's perfectly fine, but I think a new weapon that hasn't been introduced at all, no matter what region, would be a lot better. They gotta add 2 weapons to keep the even number surely. Yeah, I'll definitely like keep the even numbers, because we had 12, and then all of a sudden, instead of adding just one, they just added 2 and then have 14, and it's been like that. So if they do add one, it'll be 15. I'm pretty sure they're gonna want to have an even number and then add another one, and it'll be 16. And they'll most likely keep it that way for a very, very, very long time. But that is my take on this. That is just my take on this. So let me know what you guys think in chat, because I was having a nice conversation with you guys, and that's what I like, to have a good conversation with you guys. Let's go ahead and let's move on to another one.